ancient France. In the region of western France there were the Gauls living, and they were Celtic people. And the Romans called them barbarians because they oftentimes had long hairs and beards. Now, in the year 390, these Gauls invaded Italy and they got fought until Rome. But then they withdrew, but they stayed for 200 years in northern Italy. In 278, they made it up to Turkey and invaded Turkey. And now, when a bit later on, then in the 50s before Christ, we're talking before Christ, there was Julius Caesar, and he led a campaign and he conquered northern France, or northern Gaul. And that became then Roman Gaul. And there was one person, Vercingetorix, he made a last attempt to stop Caesar, but he was defeated, taken to Rome, and then 5 years later executed. Now, and then some time happened, and then in the year, during the 5th century, in 486, there was Clovis, and he was a Frank, and he invaded the Roman Gaul, and he possessed it then, he won, and then he ruled there, and the Merovingian kingdom was created, lasting until 718, and then from onwards, 718 onwards until 987, it was the Carolingian in France. Now, at one time there was then Charles II of France fighting against, in the 9th century, against Louis the German and Lothair, and in 843 there was made the Treaty of Verdun, and that basically gave then Charles II of France the region which is today's France as rule. And in the year 719 there was a person, Charles Martel, and he was ruling the northern part of Gaul, of Merovingian Gaul. And soon afterwards, after he was allowed to rule the northern part, he ruled then basically whole Gaul. That is according to Miles Kell's World History book on the pages 196 and 197. Hi, welcome. I'm trying to learn history to the Gauls and Franks, and after we've done it, we're gonna do Neckstretching. And if you participate in the Neckstretching, then it's at your own risk. And we're talking about war. Gauls and Franks. The Gauls were a Celtic people who lived in Western Europe, mainly in France. Okay, the Gauls were they were part of the Celtic people in Western Europe and France. The Gauls could be brave warriors, and because the men had long hair and beards, the Romans fought them wild. Okay, the Romans called them barbarians, because they were having oftentimes long hair and often beards. In 390 before Christ, Gauls crossed the Alps, swept down on Rome, and sacked the city. They later withdrew, but they occupied northern Italy for almost 200 years. So 400 before Christ, the Gauls from western France went down over the Alps up to Rome down, which is 500 kilometers south of the Alps, so in the center of Italy already, and sacked also the city. They withdrew, but they stayed in the northern part of modern Italy for 200 years, until 200 before Christ. In 278 before Christ, Gauls invaded what is now Turkey, settling the area called Galatia. Now the Gauls, I think again on land, went from over Italy, through Slovenia, and went down through Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and down to Turkey. And that area was called Galatia. In the 50s before Christ, Julius Caesar led a lightning Roman campaign to crush the Gauls. What is now France became a Roman Gaul. So Julius Caesar in the previous part, he went into the 50s before Christ, he conquered then the northern part of France. And that region was then after the conquering called Roman Gaul. The Franks were a German people split into two branches, the Salians and Ripuarians. So the Franks who lived on the region of today's Germany. And they were split into two branches. They were Franks, some were Salians and other Ripuarians. In the year 486, Clovis, a king of the Salian Franks, invaded Roman Gaul to create a big kingdom covering modern France and Belgium. So, 500 years after Roman Gaul time, one of the Franks, of the Salians, one king of the Salian Franks, invaded now the Roman Gaul part. And that created a big kingdom from France and Belgium. The first period of Frankish rule in Gaul is called Merovingian, from 486 until 751. The second is called Carolingian, 751 until 987. So there were different people when reigning, and for 400 years it was called the Merovingian, and then for another 200 years the Carolingian. Charles II of France, or Charles the Bold, from 823 until 877, fought many wars against his half-brother Louis the German and Lothair. In the year 843, the Treaty of Verdun gave Charles the rule over the part of the empire that formed the basis for France. So Charles II of France was fighting against his half-brother Louis the German and also someone called Lothair. Or was he a German and Lothair? I don't know what Lothair is. And then they made at Verdun, in a bit central France, the treaty of Verdun, and that made Charles the ruler of an empire which is basically the basis of France. Fascinating fact: the Franks were outnumbered 20-1 by Gallo-Romans, but France is named after them. So the Franks, who were the Salians and the Ripuarians, they were only 1 and 20 of the Roman Gauls, or the Gallo-Romans, but France is named after the Franks. After Clovis' death, Clovis was the one in 500, so before the thing of Charles II and the Merovingians and the Carolingians. Clovis was the one as the Salian Franks who created a kingdom. He invaded the Roman Gaul and created a kingdom covering France and Belgium, modern France and Belgium. Now, after Clovis' death, in 511, the Merovingian kingdom was divided and weakened. He started the Merovingian. Merovingian started in 486, so Clovis was a Merovingian. After Clovis' death, in 511, the Merovingian kingdom was divided and weakened. About 719, some Merovingian kings allowed a man called Charles Martel, Martel means hammer, Martello is in Italian still, hammer, to take control in the north with the title Mayor of a Palace. Before long, Martel controlled the whole of Gaul. Now another thing to the Gallic Wars. In 52 before Christ, the Gallic chief Vercingetorix led a last-ditch attempt to drive out the Romans. However, he was beaten, taken to Rome as Caesar's prize, and executed. The other thing. Now, after Clovis' death in 511, the Merovingian kingdom, the modern France and Belgium, was divided and was also weakened. About 719, some Merovingian kings kings of the Merovingians, allowed a man called Charles Martel to take control in the north with the title Mayor of a Palace. Before long, Martel controlled the whole of Gaul. That happened in 719. In 751, the Carolingians were ruling. Has it something to do with it? Whatever. After Clovis' death, the kingdom was divided. And in 719, so 200 years later, the northern regions of France were governed by someone called the Mayor of a Palace, but that mayor didn't kept only governing the northern part of France, but the whole Gaul. That was the Gauls and Franks part. These are quite a lot of information. We're going to come back in the next part. We're going to read it all again, and we try to make a little presentation about it together about France in the first millennium or something. If you were here for history, you can go directly to the next part of history, where we're going to do probably our presentation about France in the first millennium. If you stay here and participate in the next 30 minutes, that is the honest. The feet are standing shoulder width apart, and they are breathing in and reaching with the fingertips as far as possible. High up and again down, reach as far as possible. And now reach in front as far as possible. High up. And now have your feet staying together. The arms at the sides and circle around. And change. And now have your legs again standing shoulder wide apart. Roll up, shoulders back, breathe in. And out, bring the head over to one side. Breathe in. And breathe out and bring the chin down onto the clavicle. Breathe in, lift the gaze. Turn it over to the other side. Breathe again in. Out, chin down onto the clavicle. Breathe out. Lift the gaze. Turn it back to the other side. Breathe again in. Breathe halfway out. And then circle the head over. Breathe again in. And halfway out. And circle over. Have the palms together and the elbows together. Breathe in and reach high. Out and out. In and up again. Out and down. And now the arms back. Out and front. In and back. Out and front. In and back. Out and front. The feet again together. Intertwine the fingers behind the back. Pull up shoulders back. Breathe in. And breathe out. Bring the head over to one side. Chin down onto the clavicle. Pull the hands down to the ground. Breathe out. Breathe in. Lift the gaze over to the other side. Breathe in. And out. Chin down onto the clavicle. Pull the hands down to the ground. In. Lift the gaze and back into it. Have legs sling your shoulder wide apart, intertwine the fingers, and bring them over to one side. Turn up, shoulders back, breathe in. And breathe out, bring the head over to one side. Chin down onto the clavicle, pull the arm and the shoulder down. Lift the gaze and turn it out to the other side. Hands out to the other side, breathe in. And out, chin down onto the clavicle, pull the arm and the shoulder down. Breathe in, lift the gaze, and back into the middle. Have your feet again standing together. One arm behind the back, breathe in, the other one up. And breathe out and bring the head over. Breathe in. And out, look to the hand on top of the head. Hand behind the back, breathe in, the other one up. And breathe out, bring the head over. Breathe in. And out, look to the hand on top of the head. Breathe in the arms. And breathe out, lean back and draw the shoulder blades together. In and up. Out and back. In and up. And out, lean back. In and up. Out and back again. In and up. Out, lean to the side. In and up. Out to the other side. In and up. Intertwine the fingers and reach high. Breathe out, reach in front, hold up back. In and up. Intertwine the other way around. Out and front. In and up. Out, lean back to rubber shoulder blades together. In and up. Out with long arms back. Up. Out with hands down. Breathe in, lift the hands up. Out again, down. In, up. Bring the hands to touch and now the hands down to heart center. That was the neck stretching. I thank you very much and until next time.